Well, it wasn't pretty, and it was a pretty scrappy win from the Gunners in their trip to Goodison Park, but they managed to get the 3 points with a 1-0 win, just a 1-0 win over Everton, whose struggles just continue. Mark Ogden and Janusz Michallik are here with me for this one. Augie is actually at Goodison Park for this one. Augie, I know we're tempted to start with Arsenal, given the fact that they are the winners, but for Everton, just what's the reaction been like at Goodison Park? Because we know exactly how close Everton came last season to relegation, and now they've started off with a whole nother world of struggle as well.
Well, the reaction at the end was really, really loud boos towards the referee. The referee got a lot of stick, and I just think that's the usual kind of home crowd that have lost the game. But, I mean, Everton are really, really low in quality, aren't they? They just look desperately short, really. And watching the game today, they haven't got any kind of flair, any creativity. It was Arsenal, so obviously you're not measuring them against teams that will be in and around them. But, you know, they got better up front, and he had no service whatsoever. He was just basically used as a guy that was trying to press the defenders. And he had no chance, really. So Everton really, really limited. They're still waiting for the first win, and I think unless they find something extra, some quality from somewhere, they're going to have a really long season. I think this could be the year that Everton get relegated. I just don't see three more teams that are worse than Everton in the Premier League.
Janusz, your thoughts on just what Augie had to say? Of course, again, it took Arsenal some time to break down Everton. It looked like Everton were playing pretty much for that draw since the very first whistle. But overall, the Gunners did get the win in the end. But as Augie was saying, this is looking like it could be the year that Everton do go down, even though we're so early on in the season still.
Yeah, I wonder what would happen if they try to play just a little bit. I mean, you look at that team, and I don't know if Mark meant it, but I think they're worse teams than Everton. More than three, I suppose, if they just let them play. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Sean Dyche as a man. I'm not so sure about as a manager. I suspect that this was okay at Burnley, no disrespect, but I think Everton fans have the right to expect a little bit more. He's not the first one that hasn't delivered that. I'm not sure, why that's happening, but I would just play, with Beto. They have a striker that's strong, that could turn. I think if they found him a little bit more, they could have posed some problems. I mean, the bottom line here is that they were lucky because of that offside decision, because it was a demolition for the first 20 minutes. That goal was coming. You could see it. I think Arsenal were excellent up until they scored that goal. And, I don't know if we're going to spend a lot of time, about that offside, but the laws of the game, it was. Had that gone in, I think we're looking at 4 or 5-0 here for Arsenal. And I just think disallowing that put a little bit of doubt. Then comes in an injury to Martinelli. The game completely changed because of what he brings to the game. I suspect Ashley Young had to be the happiest man on the pitch when he went off. And here we were. They were just needing to get the points, however, and that's all Arsenal needed. I don't think they're going to worry about how it came about.
Augie, yeah, your thoughts, of course, on that goal that was disallowed, that was ruled offside, just the kind of reaction it had both for the Everton fans and for the Arsenal fans, and just how the players even took it, because as Janusz said, had that gone in, it could have just opened some floodgates for Arsenal.
Yeah, it didn't really change the flow of the game. Arsenal dominated, continued to dominate. I think watching it, sometimes when you watch the game, when it's live in front of you, you do get a sense that it looked offside, but it was very tight, and obviously the rules seem to change from one season to the next, one summer to the next. And I think we've got Dale Johnson, our ESPN offside guru, who's saying, "Oh, it's offside for this reason," but it is complicated, and it was offside by the rules of the game. But I think Everton is sort of a reprieve, and I think Arsenal, obviously frustrated, but you got the sense they were dominating the game so much that they knew they'd get another chance, and it came late in the game through Trossard. But I don't think it had a major impact on the game in terms of the end result. I think Arsenal won the game as we thought they would do, but it was another one of those situations where the big issue for me was Onana, when he just stopped running. Onana basically claimed the offside while the play was still active, and that basically gave Arsenal the opportunity to score the goal. And I think if you're a player, you can't do that. You can't stop and wait for the linesman's flag to come up. You have to carry on playing, and Onana was very lucky to get away with that because it was a tight one, as we say.
Janusz, your thoughts on how Arsenal pretty much managed and handled the game? Because, as Augie said, they did dominate straight from, the first minute to the last. It looked like we were hoping to see them score a lot more goals. Obviously, Everton were stubborn where they could be. But just thoughts on how they managed the game.
Well, I think, it's a couple of interesting things we'll get into, maybe David Raya and the decision behind that. But I think it was back to the old back four that gave them, great stability. It seems that Mikel Arteta, was tinkering. I mean, obviously, He comes from Pep, and you could see that, and I'll talk about it a little bit more with Raya. They're both ruthless, right? But I think he was trying every which way to maybe redo that back four, and we see Janusz playing everywhere, Thomas Partey playing everywhere, Jakub Kiwior has played, centrally on the left-hand side, and although they were getting the points for the most part, apart from that draw against Fulham, I think we all knew that something was missing, something was not right, and all of a sudden we're seeing the back four that has given Arsenal so much stability and so much success. Other than that, I think it was pretty simple. Odegaard was very, very good. Saka dangerous, maybe not at his best just yet. But I think this game, when I look at it, was all about momentum, keeping the momentum from the Manchester United game, continuing to keep up with the big boys, and that's Manchester City and Liverpool, all the big teams that have won, and keep that momentum into the following week. I mean, obviously, it's the Champions League as well at home, but then there's North London Derby. So to me, it was all about points because, and I guess, Mark, I would have said that about every team this weekend. Because coming back from the international week, you just never know. You really don't know what's going to happen to the players that are coming back, the whole unit. It's always something, and we have 3 of them. So I never looked at a team until all the international weekends are over. That's when the real football in the Premier League starts.
Switching focus quickly now back to Everton, Augie, because I know you are quite close to the Everton camp, but you're also close to the Burnley camp as well. And something that Janusz brought up, that massive respect for Sean Dyche as a person, just may not be the right manager or what Everton need right now going forward, even though when he did come in, people thought that he would be the right fit, almost kind of like a Sam Allardyce, to at least scrap their way through, but still save them at the end of the season. Just your thoughts on that, and if he can actually spearhead a turnaround at Everton, because something has to give soon.
I mean, I think it's really hard to pinpoint the manager, because whoever Everton bring in, the squad of players they've got is limited, isn't it? And they haven't got a lot of money to spend. So Sean Dyche hasn't brought many players in this summer because he wasn't able to, because the club couldn't find the players. So even if it was Roberto De Zerbi here or even Pep Guardiola, I think they struggle to make this group of players perform much better than they are doing. Now, obviously, Everton are a big club and a big history tradition. I think that the squad isn't comparable with that tradition and history. And I think Janusz is right. Burnley's a different story from Everton. Burnley's story every year in the Premier League is surviving. They have to survive. That one freak year when they qualified for the Europa League, that was just beyond all expectations. But I think the reality of Sean Dyche at Burnley is you made them a team of survivors. You can't really do that at Everton. Although Everton have spent the last 10 years surviving, you can't be a team at Everton that just survives. You have to have more than that. But until they move stadiums, until they get the ownership issue resolved, I just think Everton are going to be in that same situation. They're going to be fighting for survival until a brighter day arrives, and who knows if it will or not. Because obviously the potential new owners have got, let's say, issues to address, that they're not exactly the most, positive backstory there. So, Everton seem to be stuck in this kind of, maelstrom of depression almost. It's almost like it's like a version of Man United, but 10 years down the line, isn't it? It's just pretty grim to look at.
It is pretty grim to look at indeed. Janusz, one thing that was pretty grim to look at as well for Arsenal fans was the sight of Martinelli having to come off. We're obviously still waiting to hear updates on just what the injury is and the extent of it as well. But he's a player that Arsenal, dare I say, can't do without right now.
Yeah, they're a different team, and I think we've been here. This is not news to anyone. I mean, in terms of upside and potential, absolutely incredible. I mean, he could be one of those players, you name whoever you think is the best in Europe, not just in the Premier League. And he's the sort. Had to wait a little bit, still young, but I mean, obviously his drive, his pace, ability to take one-on-one, engaging players, and such a technical player as well, and still young. So you saw the game. I mean, it was absolutely different. We knew that Leandro Trossard is not the same player. Ultimately, he scored a goal. I think he was in form. I actually thought somehow that maybe Trossard would start instead of Vieira. I know it's a little bit deeper, but he could do that. I watched him against Estonia where he scored an incredible goal. Trossard, that is. He did come in and did his job, right? That's not often easy. But in terms of Martinelli, I really think sky's the limit. I mean, we're nowhere near seeing what he's capable of doing. Every time we say that, I'm always afraid that somebody's going to bring that back. But I truly believe in that. I'll get in trouble here. I mean, Saka has been excellent and better, but I think of Martinelli twice as much in terms of quality as Saka.
Well, I don't know if any of you could tell, but I'm actually in Spain on La Liga duty. So I did get to sit down and watch this game with a bunch of Spaniards. And let me tell you, they were very happy to see a certain David Raya in goal instead of Aaron Ramsdale. Augie, what did you make of that decision? Usually we don't, make too much fuss over goalkeeping decisions. But, I mean, it worked out well today. But just thoughts on it?
Can I ask you first if your Spanish friends actually stayed to watch the whole game, or did they leave at half time because it was so dull?
They actually took a siesta in between at
No, I'm not
halftime.
surprised. Yeah, so David Raya is an interesting one because that it was an interesting signing, wasn't it? I mean, Aaron Ramsdale was one of Arsenal's key players last year. He made the PFA Team of the Year. Now, I don't think he's the world's greatest keeper, but he does make a difference to Arsenal. He did make a difference. He brought a bit of character, he brought something to Arsenal last year that made them a team that was competing for the title. Now, he has his reckless moments, but I think he eradicated a lot of those last season to become more reliable. So it was a surprise that they went for David Raya. Now, David Raya has been a very good Premier League keeper with Brentford, good with his feet, very, very good ability. So, it's a big call by Arteta, and I'm not quite sure what prompted it because Ramsdale's not had a bad season. There hasn't been a catalogue of mistakes, but as Janusz said earlier, he's ruthless. And I think by doing that to Ramsdale, he sent a message to the whole of the team that if he can drop the keeper that was so key to his side last season, if he's prepared to be dropped, then anyone can be dropped. So maybe it's one of those messages, not just for Ramsdale, but also for the rest of the team, that nobody's safe.
Yeah, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, why postpone the inevitable, right? And it's funny because the ruthlessness is, as I mentioned, Pep, I mean, that's his mentor, and you can see it. And there's so many examples that the player that he brings, the way he plays, and one can understand that. But as Mark said, logic, I mean, here you are, international. At least you'd want your goalkeeper if you're going to make that change to work with the back four. Well, I don't know who was left. Maybe Ben White was maybe the only defender left in town. So logically, it doesn't make sense because you'd want your, David Raya to train with the back four or at least 2 or 3 players. But anyway, I think he saw that they were winning anyway. And ultimately, I think we always felt once we saw the signing that he's going to be a number 1. So, cut this out and get the player that you truly want, that you feel your team will benefit. And, you couldn't really tell in this game because Everton didn't pose any problems. But I kind of noticed because obviously I kept on watching him regardless if he makes saves or not. I don't know if you saw that in the 3rd minute where he came out of the penalty area. Well, 10 yards, got the ball, had 3 teammates around him, but just kept on rolling the ball with his foot, looking for other options, his distribution. This is the next level. And Ramsdale doesn't have that. It doesn't mean that he's a bad goalkeeper, but you can see that he is a lot more mechanical. I don't want to say he's uncomfortable with the ball because that's not it, but that presence just isn't there. And when I say presence of everything, now we'll have to wait and see when there's some questions asked, but I truly believe that Arteta said, look, I'm going to have to make that decision sooner or later. Champions League's coming. Spurs are coming. Business end of the season is going to be here in front of us sooner rather than later. And for me, he's truly my number 1 in my head. And I think that's why he made that decision.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.